How do we play inside of that area of tapping into what seems impossible?
You have to surrender.
Right. Take one step each day inside of the depth of your yes. Instead of fighting against ourselves inside of ourselves in that way, really devote ourselves even more.
Psychotherapy is extremely valuable, but it's incomplete because that's the bias toward the yang energy of doing this. I can fix myself. I've got cognitive behavioral therapy, I've got habit formation, I've got do this and do that to improve the quality of my life. You are already free. You have to just stop doing it.
How does one get there? And how do you do that while you're being a peak performer? Somebody's got to win, somebody's got to lose. We've actually done an EEG study of a samurai master. We can zoom in and really have a look deeply and understand. But then in order to understand fully, we have to have that zoom out. And how do we create that zoom out?
There was this guy who could literally run a sword through his body and pull it out and just be left with a line on his skin. They even had him literally go into a hospital and get x-rayed with the sword in him. Pulls it out and he had nothing but a red line. There was this monk who could walk into a furnace and come out unharmed.
In samurai, it's a lot about connecting to what it is that you want to protect. If you connect to what it is you protect, you're actually connected, no matter what, to something bigger than you. We saw in his EEG was that he was able to change his brain state down to the second. He could create an impulse through his entire brain at the same moment. I'm not a martial arts expert by any means, but how masters get there, how the true masters get there is not by will and force.
Can you describe it?
It sounds really ridiculous, but...
Welcome to the Mark Divine Show. I'm your host, Mark Divine. Super stoked to have you here. You are a leader who's driven with purpose and inspiration to be unbeatable. And because of that, you're in the right place. So we can have these really interesting discussions to help you expand your concept of what it means to be a leader and help navigate us through this chaotic world that we're in right now. I'm super excited today to have Dr. Amy Albright with me. Dr. Amy Albright is the founder of Holon, and she's a transformative force at the intersection of neuroscience, peak performance, and business strategy. She's got over 20 years of experience as a top executive coach, a business advisor, biohacker, and she's got a doctorate in traditional Chinese medicine. Amy has redefined what's possible for CEOs and elite athletes and other high performers. Her clients credit her with unlocking life-changing clarity and results. Backed by EEG studies confirming her extraordinary cognitive access, Dr. Amy is a true pioneer in the future of leadership and human potential. Excited to have you here, Amy. Thanks for joining me, especially in person.
Oh, thank you. It's such an honor. We're going to have a great time, I know.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to talking to you. I got to say right now, I'm excited that you combine kind of the materialistic EEG kind of brain scan, which provides a map, with actual therapy, right? Like, cognitive reprogramming, neurotherapy, because there are others in the industry, and I've been, had them on my podcast and vice versa, who literally just look at your brain and say, okay, what you really need to do is just eat healthier and exercise, right? It's all, it's looking at the map and they say, make these behavioral modifications and everything will change. But, we have to also deal with the subjective experience.
Yeah, totally. Diet and lifestyle can make a huge difference,
It can,
but
yeah.
There can be hot spots in the brain that are pulling 30% of our neural horsepower on an electrical level.
Really?
And I've not ever seen anybody correct that with diet or lifestyle alone.
Tell me more about that. Now, why is that?
It could be
Like trauma.
Yeah, it could be trauma induced. It could be the trauma of growing up in our Western society where we're taught to be super dysfunctional. In order to survive, in order to succeed, in order to be respected, we have to do things that push us outside of our healthy limits.
And keep us in a state of fight or flight.
That's right.
Sympathetic.
Yeah. So the neurotic overthinking that can come from that. And, sometimes people don't know that they're having it, but they know that they can't meditate. If people don't know how to drop in, there's a high likelihood that they're in a constant PTSD state. I don't mean that to diagnose them, but that's the felt experience that they don't know that they're having.
Right.
And a lot of the times we hold those people up really high, right?
Right.
There are successful leaders.
Right. The structures say that's what success looks like.
Right. And I do believe that we all can be peak performers, in our own ways and in our own rights without that. And so to go back to what you were saying, is that enough? Is that it alone? Or can people do it with supplements alone? I think we can make huge strides. And I think if we don't have nutrition in place and we don't have supplementation in place, if we're not thinking about what we're putting in our bodies as far as quality of food, not just like grams of protein, it's a little more sophisticated than that, right? then we don't have those basic building blocks. If we don't have sleep in place, if our hormones are whacked out, those kind of things.
I consider all that
matters.
to be like foundational, right?
Exactly.
So like in our program, we have these 5 domains: physical, mental, emotional, intuitional, and spiritual, that we all work on. But the physical is first for a reason.
Yeah, that's right.
Because if the apparatus is corrupt or out of balance or in a state of, sympathetic, like overregulation, then it doesn't matter how much work you do at the transformative level, like neurotherapy or, right? It's just not, you're going to be so dysregulated. You're not going to be able to do the work.
I've been in biohacking since before the term was coined, right? So what I can say is the stuff that most moves the needle can be the stuff that isn't very sexy, like sleep and nutrition and those foundational body pieces for sure. But like you said, that I think that we're ready for something new in the paradigm. And I think that what we're doing with Holon is really, really unique, because it's not just the cognitive aspect plus the neurological or the physical. It's also the spiritual. It's also, who is this person on a soul level and why are they here? And I think that a lot of people don't understand that the mystical can be explained by science, including neuroscience. Any mystical state that anybody's ever been in, or any state of stress that anybody's ever been in, if you look at the EEG, the electrical study of the brain, you can see the evidence of those states either in real time, or you can see a propensity toward a state like the overthinking, just as a static
and the
understanding.
only unanswered question is it the state causing the physiological adaptation, or is it the physiological
Oh man, the chicken and the egg is still nurture versus nature,
I think
right?
The term that I've heard that really helps me understand is codependent arising. Like they happen together. Yeah. As a mutual expression of your consciousness. Right. Experiencing a situation or a crisis or shock or euphoria or an ecstasy or a spiritual, metaphysical state of unity. Yeah. The experience and the physical expression of it are not separate.
Right. I'm curious, with the enlightened state versus like a psychotic break, do they have differences in the brain when you do those scans?
I'm not going to be the expert because I haven't seen a lot of psychotic breaks, but I can say that people who are going through mystical experiences that are really, really, the volume is turned up to be a spiritual crisis or a spiritual emergency, they often can be pathologized, and there can be some similarities. And again, I don't have a huge number of cases because this is usually we work in peak performance, not kind of off with people that have gone off rails, whether intentional or accidental. But I would say that the people who have gone through a mystical experience, that is, the volume is turned up way ttoo high, like a spiritual emergency.
It can be overwhelming.
It can be very overwhelming, but they end up stabilizing at some point, and they can then end up having a lot of access to spiritual gifts, intuitive gifts. So that's a beautiful thing.
Not all stabilized, though. And this is
not all of them
with,
stabilize.
The Kundalini community, right? And we have often warned people about intense breath work, right? You need to develop the capacity to reintegrate after a Kundalini awakening, or else it could do real damage psychologically.
Yeah, and it's interesting because this was just up with my colleague Dr. Drew Pearson and I. We've known and helped people to recover from those states, and there aren't very many people that have maybe like a really full picture on how to help. And again, that's not what we specialize in.
It's still pretty rare.
It is, exactly.
It's rare occurrence.
So I think that for people who know that they have, just to kind of maybe complete on that topic, for people that know that they have a dissociative background, if they don't feel deeply anchored into their body, if they tend to zone out and kind of space out in the middle of a difficult conversation, things like that can kind of point directionally towards a propensity towards that. And just for people to really understand that when they do really hardcore stuff, whether it's breath work or whether it's psychedelics work or whatever it is that they're up to, that they need to allow a lot of time for preparation and integration.
The integration, the setting, the safety of the whole thing is really important.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I've mentioned this before, but I would really, when they brought meditation into psychotherapy in the 70s and 80s, they were having a lot of people having dissociative experiences, God complexes, and they realized that the problem is those people weren't ready for those experiences because their ego development was dysfunctional. They had a lot of attachment disorders and whatnot, and so the term that I really loved came out of that is you got to be somebody before you can be nobody. So it actually makes sense to strengthen the ego, not in a like beat your chest way, but strengthen the sense of self before you can move into the realm of trying to dissolve the sense of self, which is what spirituality does, radical spirituality.
Yeah, there's a lot of really intense modalities out there, and I would agree with you. We want to develop resilience, and we want to develop a sense of, I would say, wisdom, because if we think that who we are is the collection of our accolades or our personality or even our gender or the way that we look, and then we go to radically dissolve that,
decompose that, then it's really shocking.
It can be a lot, but so one of the main methodologies that I've been using even before I started to partner and work in neurosciences more deeply is to make sure that I'm creating really resilient foundations. And we're still all about that today. And we just get to do it neurologically as well as kind of spiritually, emotionally, and in the physical life as well. So but making sure that people are really, really solid and grounded with each step of the way. We are able to, with our work, with my energetics, with the neurosciences that we apply, to bring people into what we like to call the bliss bunny state.
Oh, nice.
And there are a lot of people who make great livings at putting people into bliss bunny states and kind of going on tours and, kind of hyping people up.
Yeah, the selling circuits. Yeah.
Yeah, there's all kinds of it. I mean, there's a lot of modern methods and methodologies of this as well. And I would, just say that there's a lot of people who kind of end up on tour with these things and losing their identity, not in a good way. And
spiritual bypassing.
Spiritual
A
bypassing.
lot of spiritual egotism out there, and the gurus are leading the pack, in my opinion, for the most part. A lot of them. I want to get this out of my head because it's been like chasing this conversation, but have you ever heard of a woman named Susan Segal?
I don't think so.
Okay, she passed away, but she wrote a book called Collision with the Infinite.
Oh, nice.
And so she had a radical spontaneous awakening, which happens rarely, where you're not with a guru, you're not like with it just poof. And she was at a bus stop, right? Suddenly complete dissolution of any sense of separate self and any identity with who Susan was. And so she didn't understand it. And so she spent 12 years in therapy, being pathologized and, for everyone thinks, trying everything, basically making her feel like shit for disassociating, and finally she just said, screw it. I finally understand what this is. That's the spiritual awakening, right? That's enlightenment, right? The emptiness of self, right? You can then lean into the fullness of everything as opposed to feeling like you lost Mark or Amy.
Right. Yeah, and I think that we don't have much of a frame for spiritual development. Yeah. And, some of that might have come from, a lot of us come from, and collectively we come from a rooting where God is outside of us, where the divine is not a part of us.
We're so rooted in dualistic thinking. And, which is okay because there's, the Western world that thinking has brought us phenomenal technological advances, right? Even like your EEG machine, right? They didn't invent that in Tibet,
right?
But also, the ego has a propensity to use those technologies in ineffective, inappropriate ways. Violently.
I mean, I'm a nerdy scientist at heart, even though a lot of what I do is deeply rooted in the spiritual aspects, and I would say that I have a real respect for science, but I also know that science is created by humans and humans are flawed. Yeah. And then we basically pray to the false god of science and data. And I say that while we use massive
look where that got us during COVID.
Yeah, and a lot of other places, because it's all become quite reductionistic. Right? If we can't measure it, then it must not exist. Right. And I think that's just a really...
the forest for the trees.
Yeah, I think it's a really arrogant point of view.
I agree. Well, that's why integrative, holistic, programs of healing, recovery, therapy, coaching, it is the way to go. It's the future, because we have to re-embrace our wholeness as humans. And we say we're all made of the same stuff, so let's embrace the sameness while appreciating the unique differences.
Yeah.
And that's how you're going to get rid of the violence, but it's not going to happen like quickly, right?
Well, I love to challenge that.
Yeah.
Actually, not in a spiritual bypassing, or not in a way where we don't create solid foundations. But what I love to do is to be so efficient at the transformation, so strategic and so skillful that we're creating capacity for people to massively,
transform. Tell us what that looks like.
Yeah,
I mean,
like
how quickly do you see a transformation, and what does that transformation look like?
It depends on what we're looking for. So let's say that somebody's coming in. We only work with high-functioning folks through our various programs. One of our programs is a 5-day on-site that has a prep and an integration. So I'll speak about that just as a case in point for now. But we have people that will come through that have trauma patterns. They're still high-functioning, but they know that they're managing something really huge inside. And oftentimes they'll remember something that was actually a suppressed memory, or that they know that they have had, but they've been working towards for decades via therapy, via, all the different, maybe even somatics, everything. And they can't quite touch it. But we bring people into, I'll say, a spiritual state of awareness with the context, the setting, the dialogue, and the energetics of the space. And then we bring them into a neurological state of symphony, basically.
Through neurofeedback?
Correct. And then when they're in a certain balanced neurological state, which may not be achievable through normal waking awareness, which may not be achievable even if they are going out into psychedelics as a working with psychedelics as a tool and as a medicine. The state of neurology that the balance that we can hold their neurology in allows for things to be, let's say, dislodged from their pattern, from their neurology, in such a way that maybe they return back to a childhood moment, because let's say we're bringing their brain into theta waves. Theta waves are predominant in that age, 0 to 6, 0 to 7. And so sometimes some of the keys and the puzzle pieces, or the ability to integrate it. You can't access them if
you're in beta or gamma?
Exactly.
Interesting.
I mean, you could, but maybe just parts of them.
Theta also happens in dream state, so
it does.
They can access them through dreams. But
yeah, there's ways to get there. I mean, maybe EMDR does that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not an expert of EMDR, and I haven't read a study on that, but I can say that I've seen a lot of people go through really amazing transformation because they're able to create access to what is there in a way that feels safe for them. I mean, I think that we can always get there. I don't believe that neurofeedback is the only way, but I do think that we have to feel safe enough.
So let's say someone had a childhood traumatic, either chronic or acute situation, and it created what you would call a hot spot in the brain that's sucking 30% of the energy. And can you see that clear up instantaneously, or near instantaneously, like after the session where they have this, like, oh, I get it, and you do another EEG, is that hotspot gone?
I mean, it wouldn't be necessarily that day. It could be. We have seen that, but it could be over the course of the next few days that hotspot would resolve by, 30-40%. I can't make any medical claims, but I'm just kind of thinking about some specific cases.
Right.
It's so funny how censored we actually are. We see ridiculously radical changes for people in very short time, and we do it without re-traumatization. That's our signature, right? We
that's
can't
key.
be. Yeah,
that's a big problem with veteran healing and unskilled therapists who re-traumatize vets by just raking their emotional life over the coals again and again and again.
Right, and maybe it's in the name of service, but they don't really understand how to serve in that deepest way, or maybe they just don't have the skills, right? But I think that there's a model and a frame, and this goes back to what you were describing with that woman that had an experience, Susan, if we pathologize and if we believe that things have to be hard, then guess what, they will. If we believe that people are broken, then guess what, we'll see their brokenness, and we'll actually recreate the brokenness. But if instead we offer to them a method and a path and a framework, and I love that yours is also so, like, in a way we have to be multimodal in order to be this effective, because if we're not multimodal, if we don't come from and touch into all of those parts of who it is that we're seeking to serve, then we're not able to bring the whole of them through.
Right, and not only that, but each individual is going to have a unique kind of gateway, so to speak, or access point where they're going to be vulnerable is not the right word, but ready for the healing to enter there. Like for some it's physical movement or breath work or or therapy or EMDR or neurofeedback, but it's going to be different for everybody.
That's true.
And so totally you bring them all together, and then that access point opens the key, and then it allows all the other stuff to work.
And I think people knowing that we are bringing it all together is a part of what creates that fundamental safety.
Right.
I would say that people are waiting until they feel that they are going to be held, until they've met the practitioners or are in that right environment.
And they don't feel that in traditional medicine by any stretch of the imagination.
How could they? They're being looked at through a little pinhole.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm curious. We've heard a lot about how microdosing and mushrooms can change your neurology, and neuroplasticity. Do you have any experience or evidence of that with your work or through your work?
We don't work with psychedelics just because it's already kind of a lot that we work in deeply mystical spaces and neurological spaces. So it's a little
add a layer of complexity that would be hard to deal with.
Exactly. We end up working with people via the neurofeedback therapy into states that are very psychedelic by nature, but without consuming an entheogen. So, but I can speak about my own microdosing, and I would say that it's been huge. It's really helpful. And I love to utilize it when I know that I'm going through a great time of growth and expansion. I feel like that it can really, I feel like it really helps me to get to that next level internally. And including one time when I was even having some health challenges, and I just thought, I feel like my body, my brain is upgrading, and I need the capacity to just, grow a little faster. So I'm not in this in between.
Right. That's cool.
Yeah.
I feel like that's been happening to me since that accident I was telling you about earlier in February. Like that was a spiritual experience. You know what I mean? Big time.
I'm so glad you were able to hold it that way.
Right. Well, I've said this before on the podcast, but, as a snowmobile kind of grounded out and I left it at 40 miles an hour, knowing I'm going to hit this tree, right? You would think that there would be like light flashing before your eyes or some sort of like really wise thing that would come into my head. And what came into my head was, oh, shit.
Yeah.
This is not going to end well.
I think that's really human and really fair.
It's like a Navy SEAL going, oh, shit, I'm going to hit this tree.
Yeah. I mean.
And then I felt the impact and then found myself on my back. Thank God I wasn't on my face down. On my back, staring up through the trees. And I could see, the snow kind of falling off the trees. And it was actually really beautiful. I'm in Canada in the middle of the winter, February. So my first thought was, I'm alive because I'm aware and I can see through these eyes. And so it means I'm conscious and I'm aware of being conscious. And I don't think this is heaven because I don't think heaven looks like Canada in the wintertime. So I already had a sense of humor.
Good.
And I moved my fingers and toes and I'm like, I think I got away with this scot-free. Holy cow.
Oh, wow.
And I just had this wave of gratitude like, wow. And I was actually thinking, if I have a guardian angel who just like pressed the pause button, shifted my body to hit me, hit it on the back instead of my head, press start again. I'm like, that's a really plausible explanation. The other is like what I told you earlier. I literally just pivoted in that split second, become a lifetime of martial arts training.
Yeah.
Missed my head by a fraction of an inch.
So grateful to hear that. 40 miles an hour, even with the helmet on, is not
it's
a good.
A difficult one.
Yeah.
So I wanted to, immediately, like I could have gone into victim and I could have gone into anger that this other snowmobile, drove me off the trail.
Oh, wow.
He didn't even stop. I have no idea who he is or was. I don't care. Bless him. Right? It wasn't his fault. And I was like, there's no way I'm going to play victim on this one. And then the second kind of corollary to that was, I'm not going to waste this opportunity.
Yeah. How is this happening for you, not to you?
This happened. It may not have happened for a reason, but I can find a reason for why it happened.
Right.
And so that reason is like, I needed to slow down, right? I needed to simplify. I needed to lay in nature more, staring up through the trees, but not with a broken back, right? Or broken shoulder. Be careful of the language you use because I had been telling my wife, Sandy, that I needed a break from business and stuff. And I got one.
You did.
I got 18 of them.
Yeah. And I think sometimes if we would be in your best interest and you weren't heeding the message.
Yeah, I wasn't heeding the message. And I learn through suffering like a lot of Navy SEALs. If it doesn't suck, we don't do it. So consciousness said, okay, we're going to give you this experience and it's going to suck, but you'll get the message.
I hope. And so the message, tell me more about what you learned. I'd love to know a little more.
Well, I've been meditating since I was 21, right? And over the past couple of years, I've been having this experience of what you called earlier stabilization. It's been a very, like they say in the Zen tradition, it can be sudden, that's Satori, or it can be gradual. And oftentimes, when it's gradual, it's imperceptible.
Yeah.
And so you second guess it, or you don't even notice it. And what I've been noticing is a stabilization of this constant state of witnessing, and a spontaneousness of thought. Meaning it's just I'm experiencing thought as happening as opposed to as something that I am doing.
Yeah.
And after that accident, like it removed any shadow of a doubt. Like it lifted a veil. And I had this experience like, oh, that's what that is. Doesn't mean I still don't, I use the analogy of the burnt rope that Ramana Maharshi talks about. The ego is still there, but it's not really there. It's more like a burnt rope. And if a rope, like a nylon rope, is burned in a fire, right? Let's say it's coiled up. Well, it looks, after the fire, you can go in and see it, and it looks like it's still there. It keeps its form, but you can pass your hand right through it.
Wow. So
the ego structure has shape to it, but it's empty. Does that make sense? So like
it totally does.
I don't have a sense that Mark's patterns are still there. His sense of humor, his idiosyncrasies, he still likes to drink too much wine. All that stuff is still there. But I don't have a sense that it's Mark doing it.
Mm.
So I don't feel like Susan Segal where I need to go pathologize myself. Like, what happened to Mark? Actually, I'm happy. The guy was a pain in the ass sometimes.
And that version of you probably got knocked out when you were in that tree.
Got knocked out, shattered.
Bam.
He flew away. He said, I'm out of here. You're not treating me very well.
Right. Well, within all of that, so you're still a former Navy SEAL, and you're still
all that training is still there.
All that's still true. And I'm wondering if there's more flexibility inside of all of it. I wonder, I'd like to offer that maybe we could have a paradigm where you don't have to suffer in order to transform.
Yeah, well, that's something that's the childhood trauma pattern that, I've also been working to overcome, but I see that for what it is. Again, patterns, it's like a fan winding down. It takes time.
Totally.
For those patterns to disappear when they're formed in an abusive, family system at a very young age.
I honor that.
And I can see it for what it is.
That's right.
I don't take it personally.
That's
so
right.
That's like the big shift for me is, I describe it as I've developed a huge case of I don't give a shitness. Which is a spiritual term.
It totally is. Totally.
Drama's out there. Great. Funny. Interesting.
Right.
I'm curious about it.
Right.
And people are like, what do you think about what's happening in the world? I'm like, it's great entertainment. Like, what do you think about Trump? It's great entertainment.
Fascinating.
It's fascinating.
Yeah.
But I don't take it personally.
Right.
I don't even take what's happening in my own. I care about it. This is a really important distinction.
Yeah.
I care deeply.
Mm-hmm.
Like being curiously not attached is not the same as being detached.
No, not at all.
Right? So that's hard to really convey.
It's hard to explain, and people can maybe relate to it. They've got that somewhere. They still love their sister. They just don't talk to her as much anymore, or they only see her once a year, or whatever it is, right?
Same here. Like my family's back east, upstate New York. They're like, we really wish you were coming out. And in the past, I would have felt that codependent pull.
That's right.
I probably would have started, maybe we can make it work. And right now I'm like, there's no way in hell.
Right. So it's a different
God
boundary.
bless him, but I'm not doing it. I got to focus on other things.
That's right. You're here and you're doing your work to uplift humanity. And that's either a part of your program in that way or not, however much is that right balance, right? But it doesn't change that love that's there. It has nothing to do with that.
No,
or
I
the
love
care.
Very much.
Exactly.
But so you gotta protect your energy and space, because no matter how aware you are when you re-enter those systems, right? It's like John Bradshaw talks about the mobile, right? They put you right back to rebalance the family system. And so they put Mark right back into 18-year-old Mark. And so the patterns that are still there in that burnt rope ego still get activated.
They can, until they don't. And so you'll do what you need to do.
And I can still navigate that whole thing with awareness, but there's a tax on the system.
Yeah.
That then you have to detox from.
Until there's not.
Until there's not, right?
Until there's not, and you're doing what you need to do to get there. So, I think that if we measure things only in that very 3D or very reductionistic way, somebody would be like, oh, you're on Santa's bad list for not going to see your parents or something, right? Like what
I've been on that list.
Yeah.
I actually got coal in my stocking when I was 12 years old.
Oh my goodness. And so,
how's that?
Yeah, wow. But in actuality, if what you're doing is working to set yourself free, and you're very intentional inside of that space, and you're still holding a field of love, even if you also have a mixture of anger and resentment at the same time, and you're also doing the good work that you're doing in the world, and you're doing that work inside of you, then I think that's all we can really ask of ourselves, right? Rather than trying to fit to a stereotype and a mold. A lot of my perspective on this came from studying anthropology in my undergraduate, which I know was a long time ago now. But, when you look at, cannibalism is normal in some cultures and in some time periods, right? And then, so is this and so is that. And what we're inside of right now that we feel like we have to adhere to are basically molds and models.
A set of norms that are all arbitrary.
Yeah, pretty much. And so, what about if we listen to that divine voice within, not in a spiritual bypassing way, but if we know that we're working a project and that it's important and that we're dedicating ourselves to it, like we're really dedicating ourselves to it, such as this healing, then we can stay focused on that and not allow for those other voices of criticism to come in, because those are only distraction and they're not allowing for you to accomplish your mission, right? So if your mission is to stay focused on this goal, and then within that of healing, and within that you go once a year and you have these boundaries and it's like this, then you're on track, right? And to be able to, instead of fighting against ourselves inside of ourselves in that way, really devote ourselves even more. And to come back to that things can be easy, and I want to offer that we don't have to know how.
That's right.
So the same way that maybe somebody can accomplish an athletic feat, right? Like, running those last 5 miles when they felt like they were going to collapse or whatever it is. It could be, it could also be, a woman giving birth and she doesn't think she can, there's no way, right? It's like, doesn't even make any physics sense. How could this bowling ball actually pass between my legs right now?
Wondered that myself.
It's really intense. It could be, an ordinary thing, an everyday thing. It could be a specific thing. It could be something that's overtly really intense, or it could be something that's felt as really intense internally. We've all had to overcome things that we didn't think we could. And, how do we play inside of that area of tapping into what seems impossible? One way to do it is through grit and suffering, and the other one is maybe a mixture of that, but mostly grace, right? And surrender. And so if you ask the powers that be, whatever those words are for you, God, the universe, whatever, to support, to serve, and you show up with a deep earnestness about that, right? Like, I want to find the way to have massive, massive, massive learning without suffering, right? You don't have to even know what that means, nor do you have to necessarily heal up your past in order to have that be the experience. Right. If you really are in the devotion of that prayer, of that call, and of knowing that it's possible, knowing that we deserve it. So a lot of the times people ask me, like, what's the exact methodology? How do I get from here to there? You're saying I can, and I'm explaining to them, the benefits of letting go of that which is that they're tethered to in this moment. And they'll say, but how? And I'm like, look, I can give you maybe the first step, but it's your job to basically take one step each day inside of the depth of your yes, inside of the depth of connection and knowing, right? If we believe ourselves to be separate and martyry and victim on accident, even if it's in warrior spirit, then we end up kind of dislocated or disconnected from, right?
From your essence.
Yeah. But if we're plugged into the all that is, we're automatically we're always smarter with a team. We're always smarter with the all that is. Right. And so being able to operate in that way is a really profound shift, because we've been taught that we're on our own. Right. Every person for themselves is kind of
again, that's the Western staunch individual. That's the trauma of the Judeo-Christian Western culture, that you are on your own, you're separate, and then the entire economy and social structures are set up to keep us separate and to keep us in fear and violent, right? And so then it just perpetuates this whole that trauma, and you don't even, it's like, we're not even talking about the childhood trauma, which just adds insult to injury.
Totally.
I think it's really fascinating what you're saying, and I want to like go back to this idea of being somebody before you can be nobody. Another way to look at this is like the Western model of psychotherapy is extremely valuable, but it's incomplete, right? Because that's the bias toward, the yang energy of doing this, right? I can fix myself, right? I've got cognitive behavioral therapy. I've got habit formation. I've got do this and do that to improve the quality of my life. And if it's not coupled with this understanding that at your deepest level, which is your spiritual level, you are already free.
Yeah.
Happiness is your natural state, and peace is your natural state. And so ultimately, in order to rediscover that, there's nothing that you can do. You have to just stop doing. You have to surrender.
Well, and you get diagnosed too. So then, like with diagnoses or pathologizing people, because I really like what you're saying of the possibilities and the infinite, like being whole and complete. And that, like, so when people get pathologized or diagnosed, then they get stuck in a story. So going back to being somebody, but if you're being told, well, this pattern is part of you, or you are this, and then that becomes the mantra, you get stuck in that instead of the possibility, the freedom of the expansion, or the, like the Om Mani Padme Hum, like the removing the dust so that wholeness can shine, right?
Yeah. Right. Being able to understand that we are timeless souls on endless journeys, currently wrapped inside of whatever body and shape with whatever story. And I don't mean by that we just throw away this body and that it's not a holy temple, but that it's a transitory state.
It's a sacred vehicle.
That's right.
And so treat it like that.
Absolutely.
But recognize it's just a vehicle.
Right. And that we aren't our story. And we're not even our current belief structure. Right. And so a lot of people will frame their reality and who they think they are in very conscious and very deeply subconscious ways that don't honor the truth of who they are on a soul level, which is a deeper essence of self that cannot be found inside of the 3D world's noise and trappings.
No.
And so, how does one get there? And how do you do that while you're being a peak performer, while you're driving carpool, or you're whatever.
You're so busy, so distracted, overcommitted, right? You got to slow down.
That's right.
Right. One of my favorite quotes from this Indian named Punjab, I probably said it like 4 or 5 times in this show, is sitting quietly is the most important thing for you to do. Don't waste time not doing it.
Don't waste time not doing it. Yeah.
Right. And people think, well, I'm not being productive.
Right.
Right. Or I can't meditate. Well, you don't have to meditate. Like, meditation is just sitting in stillness and just allowing the experience to be experienced.
Yeah, I like to tell people, if you don't want to meditate, just stare at the wall.
Stare at the wall.
Stare at the wall. Look
stare
out the window.
Tree. Catherine's famous for staring at trees and becoming one with them.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. That's right.
She just spent a week doing that.
It's actually so simple, and so we kind of have to come out of the addictive patterns and know that we've been indoctrinated and be able to hold that.
Yeah.
And
that's why it's uncomfortable.
It is.
Because we've been deeply trained and indoctrinated to be distracted and to be outward focused. One of my sayings I have for my community is, if you're not training your mind, then the world's training it for you. And the results will speak for themselves, right? And part of that training, a big part of that training, is to keep you distracted and to keep you in a state of kind of fear and negativity, worry, chaos, worrying about how you performed in the past, comparing it against some sort of utopian ideal which will never be idolized or realized in the future. So you're always bouncing around, right, between past and future, and you're not able to stay in the present because you don't have the time.
Yeah.
And you have too many commitments and needs to make money and to be seen and
to prove something. And ultimately, I think a lot of what drives it is this hierarchy. Somebody's got to win, somebody's got to lose. It's a very dualistic society. It's a very
hierarchical and competitive and paternalistic and all that stuff. And I'm not a woke person, but there's a lot of truth in that structure.
Yeah.
And it's been around for a couple thousand years, but it hasn't always been around, right? And humanity has been on this planet for a lot longer than the science would like to.
The zoom out is available here too, right?
Exactly.
I think that's essentially what we keep on talking about, is if we know that we can zoom in and really have a look deeply and understand, but then in order to understand fully, we have to have that zoom out.
Right.
And how do we create that zoom out? Right now, we're able to talk about it. We're able to share words about it. But what we know is that the zoom out actually comes from those moments where we lose track of ourselves staring at a tree, or where we lean our backs up against it. You know, I think nature is really helpful. The quiet spaces and these ancient practices, you know, like the breath work, or by the way, just as a really amazing tool, there's a breath work practice that's very gentle, and I offer that on our website for a free download if anybody wants to go to it. I love to be empowering people every step of the way, and so this particular breath work practice is available all the time while you're having a conversation, while you're driving your car. It's very gentle, and it can be brought with. It can also be experienced eyes closed.
Can you describe it?
Yeah, it sounds really ridiculous, but I ask for people that think too much just to play with me, which is also then a challenge, but it's a fun one. So what I do is I just have people remember that we do not begin and end with our skin, but that our skin is our physical wrapper, and I have them just pay attention to their skin as it envelops their entire body. And then I have them just pretend, see, feel, or imagine that they could track all of the pores of skin.
That's interesting.
And then see, feel, or imagine that the inhalation comes very, very ever so gently through the skin, but that the exhale does not. And so
the inhale through
the inhale
pores.
goes through all of those pores of skin at the same time.
Yeah, rejuvenating every cell. And the exhale is going back through the nose or the mouth.
Yeah, then we either don't track the exhale or it goes through the nose. Yeah.
I like that.
And what happens, you know, when people just continue to sit in that practice, and there's also working with the tailbone, which I'll talk about in just a moment, but when we sit in that practice, what we're actually doing is invigorating our energy body.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that sometimes people their eyes might roll back in their head. I'm a doctor of Chinese medicine. We have these really well-known tributaries of energy that move through meridians.
I get acupuncture twice a week.
Do you? I love it. It's awesome. It's awesome. I'm so glad to hear that, especially with your recovery from that accident. But, you know, the energy extends from away from the body, and we can actually measure that. I can see it. I'm a clairvoyant. It's super easy for some. So actually, all of us track it. We just don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know that we see it. Everybody sees it. So when we're breathing through the skin like that, it's actually shifting the way that our energy field is working. And it's helping us to restore the connection. So there's a mycelial or neural or root kind of system of connection that's happening out in our energy field that's growing during that time. And so, you know, people can go get the download. I'll drop it in, but just to talk about it a little bit more, the other piece of it is that I ask people to work with their tailbone. The tailbone, if a lot of what we're talking about is that essentially we can't escape being mammals. Like we're really thoughtful, overthinking, super neurotic sometimes mammals, but we're still mammals. And so just like we would know how a dog is doing by looking at their tail, have they had trauma? Are they are they worried? Are they happy? Are they wagging? Is their tail between their legs? We can know how we're doing based on how our tailbone is feeling.
Interesting.
Right? And so we often end up with a cupped forward tailbone, which then creates a collapse of the shoulders, which then collapses the entire central column that the Kundalini energy wants to move through, and everything kind of with it, right? Like the whole system is in that. But it's signaling to our brain and our entire being that we're not safe.
Right.
And we may be in that state all the time and not know it. And if you hold your body in that way, you will shift into that state, no matter what's going on, no matter how powerful you are, right? So, and then another option that some people do is, and this is like that traditional military posture, like kind of stick your butt back a little bit more, right? So then what happens is you have a lot of shielding across the heart, right? Because you got to kind of like push through life like that. So there's a natural posture, and you know, some of this can get into like orthopedics and things like that. But if we just think about it from an energetic level, we want for our tailbone to be free. We want the tissue around it to be soft. We want there to be the right amount of tilt. And we want there to be spaciousness between the tailbone on an anatomical level and the pubic bone, which is the bone way at the bottom and the front. And when we have that, essentially what we have is a really beautiful foundation for our energy.
Can you use the pelvic floor tilt as a gauge if the tailbone is in a, so if your pelvic floor is, if the bowl is not going to be tipping water out, does that mean that the tailbone's in a good position?
I haven't thought about it in terms of that, but I would say that when people have that right position,
because that's what we do in yoga, right?
Yeah.
Try to get that pelvic floor so it's balanced.
And when you'll know when you're there because you'll have a subtle shift and feel better. Okay. You'll notice that your breath softens a little bit, or your face relaxes, or something
because
good.
you're dealing with the root chakra also, which is around security and survival. And so if you're not triggered in the root chakra, then you're going to suddenly feel calmer.
Right.
More
And on a practical
secure.
level, we can't build without the first floor.
Right.
Right. We have to have our foundation set. And so when even if we just want a quick modulation of our nervous system and of our reality, we know that we're in a tense state. We know that we're about to have an interaction that might create some stress. We can just shift into the tailbone and just go, okay, wait a minute. I'm going to soften. I'm going to relax. I'm going to align here. And that's immediately creating a shift. And then 1 or 2 breaths, and you can start, especially if you've practiced, you can start really shifting the sense of interconnectedness. So if we have safety, and we remember that we're connected to the all that is. Part of remembering that we're connected to the all that is means that we remember that we are loved, that we are of the divine, right? Then we can pretty much handle whatever,
Right.
and we do it from that zoomed out space instead of like the hamster on the wheel or pressed up
Right.
against the glass and all these old patterns that want to run.
Right.
So those are just a couple of
That's
really
awesome.
huge tools, and again, people can be walked through it, but I love to be able to break it down because, while we were saying at the beginning of this conversation that we can't fix everything just with nutrition alone, but you can't skip it. And, what are those quick levers and tools, right? And baked into this practice is remembering I am safe, and baked into this practice is I am loved. Baked into this practice is I'm connected to all things. And we're not just saying that at the level of the mind, we're actually changing how our physical body.
You're experiencing it through the heart.
Exactly.
The healing doesn't happen unless the heart's engaged.
Yeah, the
You
heart.
can't think your way to healing.
The whole hologram, right? The
Yeah.
heart and I would say all the cells, right?
Yeah, I
Like
agree with that.
we want to bring it through the whole hologram. And that's, by the way, the name Holon is for hologram.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
where that one
Right.
comes from.
Right.
Some people wonder why
I
we
love the term
did that.
Holon. Ken Wilber uses that, right? So, growth happens holonically, like in a transcend include fashion, right? So you move beyond earlier phase of yourself by integrating the positive and becoming aware and objectifying the negative so you can get rid of it, which helps you transcend to the next level. But it doesn't mean you let go of those earlier parts. They're still part of you.
Yeah, the memories are still
They're
there,
still
and
part of you.
and the wisdom
Yeah.
is actually when we do a full resolution, when we come into full forgiveness, or where we have when the hologram is really resonant and clear, it actually becomes more crystalline
Yeah.
again.
I love the holographic metaphor.
Yeah.
There's a great book, I forget the author, called The Holographic Universe. It's phenomenal. And it really leans into that metaphor that we are holographic, energetic projections of consciousness. And he, the author as evidence, looks at a lot of different strange experiences, right? That you might call just magical or mystical, right? I remember this one instance. There was this guy, I think he was Russian, who could literally run a sword through his body and pull it out and just be left with a line on his skin. And people like, he did this so often, so many people observed it. They even had him literally go into a hospital and get x-rayed with the sword in him.
Whoa.
And the sword, in the x-ray shows the sword run straight through the guy.
Whoa.
Pulls it out, and he had nothing but a red line,
Yeah.
There was this monk who could walk into a furnace and come out unharmed.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
so the energy, like, this body is nothing but energy.
Yeah.
And the mind is not different than the body. The mind is the body.
The mind is the body, or the brain is part of the body, and ultimately all of it is a part of the great mystery.
That's right.
So if we know that we are part of the great mystery, then we should not pretend we have ourselves figured out.
No.
And that we understand what reality
That's
is,
the
or
thing.
who
when
we
you,
are.
When you look at these, and I started going down that rabbit hole with my martial arts and then into yoga, right? So there's yogis who are on this planet who are well into their 200th or 300th year, right?
That's wild.
And one of my teachers, a guy named Nisargadatta Maharaj, talks about, he's passed away, but he talks about being visited by a 1,000-year-old yogi coming to seek his advice. And of course, Maharaj was like, well, why? Why are you so attached to this body?
Yeah,
Give it up,
right.
buddy.
Yeah, right.
Basically,
Maybe it's time
it's
to
a
move
cool
forward.
parlor trick, but what
right.
What do you expect to gain out of
Yeah,
that?
that's right.
My point is that, and even Mr. Nakamura, like I watched, he was my martial arts and teacher and Zen master. I watched him take 5 blocks of ice. This is Madison Square Garden, separated by these tiny wooden like sticks.
Mm-hmm.
These blocks of ice were easily 10 inches thick, stacked on the top of each other. And he just stood before it. And then you heard this like whooshing sound, and he shattered them with his forehead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know, it's interesting. We've actually done an EEG study of a samurai master. And I don't know much about the tradition that you studied in, but in samurai, it's a lot about connecting to what it is that you want to protect. And so if you connect to what it is you protect, you're actually connected, no matter what, to something bigger than you, right?
Yes.
And to the goodness, right? This is your family, and they're not taught to be on the offense. It's only defense, protect. Right. That said, they're taught offensive strikes, of course, right? But what we saw in his EEG was that he was able to change his brain state down to the second. He could create an impulse through his entire brain at the same moment. Right. And so I think
that creates this like leading for like you implying that to Nakamura. There's this leading edge of energy.
That's right.
That's preceding his head hitting that.
That's
so his
exactly
head actually never actually hit the ice.
Not in that same way, because
Not in the same way, right.
And it's almost like the head followed the energy impact.
Right. He had like a wedge or like a hatchet of energy that hit the ice.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
It is incredible.
What the potential of the human mind and body.
And how they get there, though, and again, I'm not a martial arts expert by any means, but how masters get there, how the true masters get there is not by will and force so much as it is through the union.
That's right.
And through knowing how to work with their neurology, their energy, and the level of the mind,
right.
The physicality, all at the same time, with such preparedness, with such conscientiousness, and with such skill, that it's not through the brute force that we've been taught. Right. I mean, that'll get you so far, but there's a limit. And so that's what we see in their neurology. We can see if somebody's trying too hard.
Interesting.
We know when they're trying. I mean, and just to be clear, I'm not the one that reads the EEGs. My colleague, Dr. Drew Pearson, has taught me a lot. I know how to look over a QEEG, which is what most people think that we're talking about. That's kind of the pie chart at the end. He knows how to read the squiggly lines on the page, 19 of them at the same time.
Pie charts where it looks like a brain with all the different coded regions.
Yeah, that's right. And I can do some interpretation, but let's just say that anybody that only knows how to look at an QEEG doesn't really know, because the data that goes behind it is what you have to be able to analyze and understand. Yeah. But I would say that but I can feel it, I can see it inside of someone in their energy field, and I can hear it in their story, and then he'll kind of
it in the
right, exactly. So it's fun to
He was with Dave Asprey for a while, wasn't
That's
he,
true.
with 40 Years of Zen?
Yeah.
How is your program different than that?
Oh yeah, it's a great question. So we accept a maximum of 30 people a year into the on-site program.
Oh, wow.
It's not the only thing that we do. We offer, because what we're really doing is offering very robust transformation packages for people and opportunities for people. We want to do that not as a massive revenue stream, but we're more inclined to make sure to bring people through the storyline arc of themselves as that timeless soul on an endless journey. The on-site is 5 days, but we do a lot of prep and a lot of integration. Right. And most of the folks are engaged in.
Is it in-residence program, or they go home?
It is.
Oh,
no, they stay on-site. So it's
and you do that in Nevada City, or
4,100 square foot building with lodging, and we like to call
When
it the
do I
laboratory.
start?
Come on over. The laboratory temple is on
you
site.
Want to go up
Yeah.
That sounds fun, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of questions just from my own experiences, from what you're talking about. Especially.
Yeah, it'd be awesome. I mean, I think that ours is a deeply spiritual program. We say no to far more people than we say yes to.
It was Dave's was just really biohacking.
I think that they
accelerate. I have a big issue with that name, by the way, 40 Years of Zen.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I just don't agree with that. You can get 40 years of meditation, because there's so much more going on, right?
Yeah.
Than what you're going to experience in the biofeedback or whatever, what do you call that?
I think that's maybe named after like a certain metric,
it's
right?
Catchy.
Which is
it's just catchy. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, ours is a very deeply spiritual program. We're looking to bring people into their mastery, and we're working not just neurologically, but on every area of their life and with them. I can help to advise them on how to get their companies to scale, or if they are done with that, particular career and they want to transition. So there's a depth and a complexity with which we hold and really honor people through this journey. But we can, and you had asked that earlier, so for some folks, let's say they come through just that on-site, maybe what they can accomplish is no longer having the PTSD or the overthinking, which is a massive accomplishment to be able to pull off in a 5-day on-site with, some prep and integration. Sometimes though, people also want to go further than that, or maybe they've already cleared that stuff and they want to do what's next. So we bring people through that are wanting to open up their spiritual capacities. Maybe that's deeper intuitive states. Maybe that's deeper meditative states. People will come say they want to be a medical intuitive. They want to be able to be a clairvoyant. We know what those things look like in the brain. I also have been training intuition via my capacities as a clairvoyant, and also my ability to transmit information to a student directly for about 20 plus years, like 22 years. So we put those things together and we create whatever it is that the person is wanting for their outcome. And again, we work with people who are in a good spot to begin with, but what it is that they want could be kind of anything, right? As long as we're aligned. We have to be really aligned.
Right.
We only bring people through that are really good people.
Yeah.
We're only going to put our bets behind the people that we believe are going to make a change in the world.
Yeah, you're not going to work with skeptics or...
Well, I mean, they could be a little bit skeptical. That would be okay, but they definitely have to be really wanting to do something to help people in the end and be tooled for that.
So it's more about like a service to the collective versus individual.
Yeah. If they want us to help them make more money, then we're not into it.
Yeah.
I mean, they can make more money though. That's awesome. But are they going to do it in a deep and genuine way that actually serves the collective? Because, I would say probably right now, based on environmental, let's say human rights issues, AI being super interesting, and we probably have about 5 years where we're going to either thread the needle as humanity, or we're going to
extinguish ourselves.
That's right. So we don't really have time to waste on people that want to do it for Instagram.
No, I agree.
And we don't really have time to waste on any of this. How do we become those beacons of light? How do we stabilize our neural energetic architecture in such a way that we become those pillars, and that we end up at the right place at the right time, doing exactly what it is that's needed for the benefit of all. And that's not going to be from the level of the mind or the over push, although I do believe that we have things we have to show up. Change is going to happen
at the level of consciousness or spirit.
That's right. So how do we steward that? How are we that for ourselves? And then how do we steward that with each other, for each other? And so that's great. That's the foundational place that we come from.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And do you define peak performance in that way? I was curious how you define peak performance. I've heard that term so many times, different
it's right
places.
Up there with the word biohacking.
Yes.
It doesn't sound very kind, and it doesn't sound very connected. And I think that there's a lot of peak performance that is actually very pathological, to talk about that lens.
For sure.
And we were on that earlier. And I would say peak performance is going to be the person residing inside of their natural state of being, and also being able to be quite effective in the 3D world. So we don't want to just have people who are really amazing. I mean, it's awesome if this is someone's path, but the ones that we're working with don't want to just meditate for meditation's sake, and that's their peak performance, or make money for money's sake, and that's their peak performance. It's how are they living in alignment with that essence and the truth of who they are, and their fullness of their power, and the interconnectedness.
Not trading anything for that performance.
That's
right?
it,
like
right?
A lot of peak performers trade connection for performance. Connection with others, connection with themselves.
Right.
And that's, that leads to burnout, and it leads to destructive, tendencies.
It does. And it's ultimately all run inside of fear and hierarchy. I have to prove that I'm better means that I have to prove that I'm better than other people. And, or I have to prove that I'm enough means that I have to prove I'm better than other people. It's like, I love holding the benchmark of peak performance, not of that there's a template. And I think that's that's a huge danger that we can run into, is what are we supposed to be doing to hit that template? But rather, who, and this is why I like to look at people on a soul level. Who is this being in that timeless way? How are they currently expressing? And what is possible inside of their expression? And so my work is, and our work at Holon, is to bring somebody into that optimal expression. And that could be the amount that they are able to show and shower love and affection upon their family, right? Because they already had a lot of the work stuff dialed in. But as soon as they're able to hit that benchmark, which is an incredibly, I mean, what are we here for if it's not for love and connection, right? So if they hit that benchmark, what'll happen is that everything in their career will open up and get richer and deeper in all of the ways, right? Like they'll find a whole nother groove or gear. But sometimes the thing that we're aiming for is something that maybe isn't, again, it's not anything people are putting out on their social media and necessarily bragging about. Wow, I finally learned how to be present with my loved ones. I finally learned how to connect the touch of the arm of my daughter while I look into her eyes, while I talk with her in a way that is truly and deeply present. This isn't stuff that people typically report home or report out into the world about, but it's the foundational aspects of their ability to be themselves being expressed.
Yeah, it's affecting the quality of experience dramatically.
And also it's a benchmark and an indicator for their consciousness and their capacity to move and be powerhouses. You know, ultimately, a lot of people are very interested in manifestation, which is great, but manifestation, I want everybody to keep working with it, but it's an I, me, mine game is how I like to describe it. When we learn to function and operate.
Simply, if you recognize that this is a reflective universe, right, you are going to receive what you put out. And so if you're putting out love, right, and you have clarity around your vision, and you're injecting that vision with love and nothing but that, guess what's going to come to you?
Right. Yeah, it is.
It's going to reflect back exactly what's in your mind eventually. And the more power you have, the quicker.
Yeah, what's in your mind and what's in your cells, what's in your subconscious, right?
The whole
everything,
body, mind,
the whole hologram.
Right, because you could, in your head, have an idea and cancel it out with what's in the heart or what's in your cells. So it's got to be an integrative vision and feeling and everythingness. So that's what you're putting out. So we'll call that consciousness. We
can call that it's related to consciousness. It's manifestation, I would say. And then within that, as we become more and more purified of those thought structures that are not us, when we become more and more free of all of those inhibitors, all the things that are blocking our true light and our real essence from coming out, what happens is that we actually get into another scale. And that scale transcends manifestation, and it is creation. And when we see, we can identify and train and help people on all levels to come into the creational capacities. Like essentially, that's what we do. I can't necessarily explain that briefly on a website, but that's the arc.
As you talk about that, I'm thinking about Dr. David Hawkins' scale of consciousness and how everything below 200 is not life affirming. Actually is destructive energy. So shame, guilt, fear, anger, hatred, jealousy, rage, pride. And then the 200 level is courage, which makes sense because courage is when you open your heart. And so from there, all the energies are life affirming, and which means they're creative. And so the higher you are in the scale, it's a logarithmic scale, the more you're going to have the capacity to have more and more powerful creation.
That's right. So to the point
and at the highest level, it's instantaneous.
Yes, exactly. And so that's where you see the samurai or, the master do things that don't make sense.
Don't make sense to the materialistic mind or to someone stuck in that below 200.
Right.
It just seems like a miracle or
people below 200 might think that it's completely not real. And I would say that there is a lot of smoke and mirrors out there. And it's good that we're skeptical because the skeptic helps to keep us safe. But I can say that in my own experiences, of my own, watching my own brain on EEG and watching some of these other people's brains, like what we're witnessing does not have any scientific explanation. And it is because
we can't measure consciousness yet, except for Dr. Hawkins's kinesiology.
Not on a scale. Yeah.
We don't have an instrument that can measure it.
The EEG, if you know how to read it correctly, can definitely imply it.
Is that right? I'd love to learn
the amplitude of alpha, the amount of coherence across different waves, the non-occurrence of certain hotspots. And then a lot of it is actually, especially when we get into the creational field, it's going to be found inside a very, very slow cortical potential in certain patterns and in certain areas. And with all of this, it's not just, a lot of people say, oh, it's theta or oh, it's gamma. It's like when does it occur? Does it occur in the right place? Theta at the wrong time in the wrong place will make somebody maybe very unstable or have huge amounts of ADHD if it occurs in another place.
Interesting.
But if it can be done on, I'll say, on demand, that doesn't sound exactly right.
By the way, thank you for offering to do the EEG with me.
Oh, yeah, you're welcome.
Your assistant mentioned that, and I didn't
at the last minute we thought of it
yesterday to do it.
No worries.
I would love to take you up on that sometime, maybe up in Nevada City, like I said. But it can't be a snapshot, right? You're talking about changes to mental state and processing that happen at different times, different experiences. How do you capture that? You can't capture that with just one measurement, can you? Don't you have to do it over a series of
I see, multiple EEGs.
Yeah, it's kind of like a blood test, right? You say, you take a blood test, but it's a snapshot in time. It doesn't mean it's going to be the same tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, blood tests aren't exactly completely stable, but let's say they only move in a measurable way every month or two. And I'd say, I mean, you can change if somebody receives really devastating news, you'll definitely see an immediate shift in their EEG versus, but if they're in a slightly bad mood versus a slightly good mood, or if they meditated that morning or not that much, we do see enough that we can understand kind of their current state of being. We can't tell you if they didn't sleep well last night, but we can tell you if they're not sleeping well.
Yeah, I see what you're
saying. And as a general state. And so, we can actually tell a whole lot. And especially because my colleague is such a wizard. He is incredible in his ability to really analyze those EEG in ways that goes beyond what most scientists know how to do, because he understands consciousness. Most neuroscientists are not actually studying consciousness. They're studying, let's say, electrical systems in the brain or whatever it is that they're interested in. But he is able to look and say, wow, I think you have an unresolved mother wound. And also...
Are you serious?
No, I'm very serious. It is like having a really deep astrological reading or something, but it is done with the brain. And he can do that in a vacuum. He can say, this person struggles with dyslexia.
You mean without knowing the context of that person's life?
He may know this is the age, male, female, right or left-handed, and that's it.
Interesting.
And then he can tell you they struggle to memorize things, or to be able to, they have trouble with word finding, or their memory is really sharp, but they have a constant state of stress that occurs in this area of their brain, but it ends up impacting their decision-making skills. This person has a really hard time regulating their emotional state and is prone to anger bouts, but it comes from a deep sense of depression or disconnect versus just an overworking in the brain. So it's incredible what is available and can be understood when it's really looked at in a sophisticated way. The majority of what's out there for neurosciences medicine is not being applied by skilled people, and it's not being done, if it's neurofeedback therapy, with highly specific equipment. Ours is some of the best software. It is the best, honestly, hardware, software, and application in the world. Like only research institutes and the government have. And even then, some of the stuff we have is not even they have. So, and then the ability to be able to really use that skillfully. Honestly, there are a lot of places where technology is being applied to the brain, and not everything that's done for the brain is safe. And it's really important to really, regardless, this is just something that I like to say to people, because I am standing here advocating this kind of work, and I want to make sure that also people keep safe and really due diligence on who it is that you want to work with.
Right.
It's like breath work. Not every breathing practice is safe for people.
It's not.
Yeah.
But when you go in with the brain, there's some stuff that's not going to move the needle at all, and therefore it's not really going to help, but it won't really probably hurt. But there are really powerful methodologies. I've heard about this magnetic field therapy that's being utilized in the brain, and just a huge amount of damage that's been done. And it can also happen with neurofeedback. Yeah.
What
there's
about
ultrasound.
Electroshock, like really subtle, like brain treatment center?
Yeah.
I actually did it because they've had a lot of success with vets.
Yeah.
And so someone some nonprofit offered to pay for me. So
wow.
I'll give it a try.
Awesome.
And it was just like a little, every minute, it's like zap it. And they did a QEEG beforehand and then afterwards, and they claimed to have shown significant improvement in some of the coherence.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Again, I did it for preventative maintenance from TBI.
Yeah.
Because all SEALs have some sort of traumatic brain injury, micro brain injury, or a bit more.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure.
So is that safe? Or did I just...
If it's microcurrents of electric and it's done right, yes.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Yeah, the magnetic stuff I'm very skeptical
Catherine, you would have
of.
told me if I was acting too crazy. Though.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And that is a good thing.
Maybe.
That's a good
Maybe.
indicator.
Well, yeah, I will now. Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious about the hot spots in the brain. Once you say you do the therapies that address those hot spots, and then somebody goes back into the world, do they come back into the brain, or is it something that's like,
It's a good question.
Yeah.
So the hot spots in that example, people will typically leave and they'll go home and they'll wonder why nothing is triggering them.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
They're like a little bit disoriented.
That reminds me of the ganglia block therapy.
Oh, yeah.
That was my experience. Like ganglia block, there's no immediate experience except when you re-enter your environment, you're like, wow. Like that used to really jack me up, and I'm super calm.
Right. Yeah, and I don't really know that much about ganglion block, but I can imagine that as an outcome. The distinction here that I can say about the neurofeedback therapy is that you're actually learning to not overuse that area. So what we're doing is we're just feeding back. So as a context, I missed to say this, neurofeedback therapy is the sensing of what's going on in the brain, being put into a computer, back into the brain as feedback faster than the mind can perceive it.
Right.
And so it is real-time learning. So it is, when you go out into the world, would you forget how to ride a bicycle? Probably not. Right? Like it is something that you have learned, a neurological balance and a capacity, if it's been trained in appropriately and with enough repetition in a short period of time. Because the repetition within a short period of time, that's why we love the intensive format, is a part of what creates that new pattern.
Right.
The brain's like, whoa, this is so much better. Wow, this is so much more efficient. I feel so much better. The person emotionally and even often physically, physiologically feels better as well. They feel more relaxed, connected, happy, all the things. So as soon as we achieve that state, the brain then really works hard to continue to grow in that way. And so what'll end up happening is, instead of it fading, because the brain has received such a deep and really precise signal on how to function, it actually grows more connections in over time.
Interesting.
So people actually get better over that next 3 to 6 months, maybe even out to a year. And
because that energy is not being shunted to those dysfunctional patterns anymore.
Right. And now they have it. Wow. Okay. So if that current isn't running there, and it's running into connection and it's running into insight, now they're making different business decisions and they're having different kinds of connection with their loved ones or their team. And then that continues, right? So there's a reinforcement that happens kind of on a social, behavioral, energetic, emotional level.
Right.
But the neurology is what's running the show. And it's a little bit hard to conceive of, but like we don't actually understand how we're making our own heartbeat right now. We don't know how we're making our liver do the cleaning stuff that it's doing. Our brain is thinking.
Just happening.
Our brain is, our minds are thinking, but our brain is doing something, right? And that brain is I would say that the entire hologram of the body, but especially deeply mapped into the brain, is that gateway and that pathway to consciousness and to the divine. So in a way, what it is that we're doing right within the neurology is removing that which is blocking us from our own divinity, right? What are the patterns of our electrical systems that can shift so that we then feel ourselves and know ourselves to be of God or of the all that is. And people don't want to go back from that.
Of course not. That's awesome. Wow.
Yeah.
We do have to wrap up here. There's so much to talk about. Maybe you'll have to go experience it, and then we can have another conversation.
That would be fun. Come on up and do
cool.
our program.
Yeah,
for sure.
I'd love to do that.
For sure.
So, how do people find out more about you guys, Holon, and your work?
Yeah, so the website is Holon Experience. You've heard through this whole conversation the importance of experience, so that's in our domain name. It's HOLON experience.com. If people want to apply for, we talked mostly about the intensive today, but we have other programs as well. So people can explore and see what kind of things we're offering, and then send in an application form, and somebody will meet and help. Sometimes it's hard to understand what maybe would be the best for a person, so it's okay. They can just talk with us, and we'll help them figure it out. And just, stay tuned. There's a lot more things that are launching here soon. We've mostly been focused as far as our time and energy on figuring out how to really master helping people through this process. So, YouTube channels, et cetera, to follow.
Yeah, next is to help a broader swath.
Now we
of
have to
people.
get the word out more.
Yeah.
After a couple of decades plus of focus on
hence
this.
being on this podcast and
That's
traveling
right.
to San Diego.
That's
so I appreciate
right.
you doing that.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you very much, Amy.
Yeah.
It's been an incredible conversation. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
And thank you for tuning into the Mark Divine Show. We super appreciate you walking this path of leadership growth and impact. If today's episode with Dr. Amy inspired you, please share it with your friends and colleagues. Spread the word. Also, rate and review it wherever you listen to this show. It really helps us remain relevant. If you'd like to go deeper to learn more about Dr. Amy's stuff, then you heard the website holonexperience.com. If you want to learn more about my work with Unbeatable, go to unbeatablemind.com to explore how you can work with us on our leadership development and transformation programs. You can also follow me on Instagram at Mark Divine Leadership. And that's it. Until next time, be unbeatable. Stay focused. Hoo-yah. Divine out.